Hello and welcome to the next generation of residential real estate with Annie Mac Works. The next gen real estate agent is going to walk you through a couple of ways that we've noticed elite realtors across the country getting hyper local to beat the fintech vendors like Zillow and Realtor.com. How you can use renovation real estate and staging real estate to achieve guru status. Probably the most important lesson is how residential real estate is moved from Main Street to leveraging the power of video in your local market and this incredible opportunity that you all have to announce your value proposition to the community, leveraging the power of video in YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. We're going to end our session today removing mortgage contingencies with the incredible Cash to Keys program and a listing process called Buy Now, Sell Later, which is actually a listing tool that you're going to use to take more listings in 2023 and beyond. My name is Russ Fitzpatrick. I'm one of the lucky founders of Annie Mac Works, and this is not my first rodeo. I've been selling residential real estate since 1986, so probably makes me the oldest person on the meeting today. But what I can assure you is that I have kept pace with the changes. And if I could enunciate one of the significant changes that has occurred in residential real estate since Mike Ferry taught me how to always be closing, is that I think the nature of residential real estate nationally has changed to always be serving, to be in service to your consumer in a way that builds instant trust, instant credibility, instant rapport, and where your consumers understand that their goals are important to you, whether or not it results in a listing or a transaction. You're in service to the entire real estate community rather than you're just a salesperson closing. And I said at the beginning of the session that when we started selling real estate back in the 80s and 90s, you had to have a real estate office right on Main Street, or else you'd be passed by in the local community. Today, with Google Pay Per Click, the meta world growing around us, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, you've got to start to leverage the power of video to create hyper local expertise, hyper local connection with your target audience. To say that this is not your father's real estate industry, to say that this is not your grandfather's real estate industry is an understatement. Recipe cards going out through snail mail are not the same as you recording hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of minutes of video. So a potential consumer can not only understand who you are as a person, but what your value and intentions are in the residential real estate space, for them to understand that you're a Boca Raton expert, that you're a Lake Worth expert. This is enunciated on video. So my job at Annie Mac Home Mortgage is to study, literally study, the elite residential real estate professionals from across the country and to see what they're doing on video in front of their customers. Now, this is the number one residential real estate agent in the world, Mark Spain out of Atlanta, servicing the entire southeastern part of the United States. And if you just kind of stop having to touch the stove to tell if it's hot or not, just ask Mark and he'll tell you, don't touch the stove, it's hot. So what I mean by that is you can see Lori Finkelstein Reeder, you can see Chris Cusimano, you can see these elite residential realtors all over the country, and you can tell exactly the scripts. You can tell exactly the culture. You can tell exactly the results. Since we've been doing next gen real estate work, we've learned so much about the consumer behavior. The grid you're looking at in front of you is an inside sales center that I run in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And the numbers on the far right are because we've learned lessons over the last 10 years. By leveraging the power of video in our relationships, we can achieve higher conversion rates to our lead gen. So rather than having a 4%, 6%, 9% conversion rate, we're actually seeing out of 53 consumers that came into our call center and got to speak to our live inside sales associates, 17 of them actually went forward and pulled credit and went out and saw houses. Out of 53, 23, that's 43%. And about 3/4 of the way down the screen, 51% of the people that we spoke to ended up pulling credit. First substantive contact to the pre-qualification process when it comes to lead conversion and lead nurturing. Nothing can set you apart more in the hearts and minds of your real estate prospects than leveraging the power of video. The other thing we learned is that on your websites, on your social media posts, you'll have a call to action. And I'm going to go ahead and state for the record, a social media post without a call to action is a waste of your time. You need to have the call to action from your forms. And when you see these prices associated with higher conversion, you're going to pay $31 for a conversion of 13.4%, but you actually pay more money for a lesser forms filled out. This is the confusing piece for residential real estate. So I'm going to use the old pop-up blocker that was prevalent in residential real estate 10 and 15 and 20 years ago. You would go to search for a property and a little pop-up would come up on your screen and say you can't proceed unless you fill in name, email, and phone number. Well, that lead would convert about 13 or 14% of the time to become an inbound lead for you. Where if the field was longer, if the form was longer and asked for more information, actually less people would fill out the form. Isn't that funny? You would get instead of getting 40 forms filled out, you would only get 4 or 5. What an incredible advantage that is for lead conversion. So one of the lessons that we've learned is that the long form lead capture technology actually requires the consumer to make an emotional commitment to the process before you have to pay for the lead. So the result is an astounding fewer forms, fewer people to follow up on, fewer people to contact, but a much higher conversion rate for the leads that you paid for. So simply stated, the next generation of real estate agents would rather pay $60 a lead for 10 leads, but have 2 closings come out of that. Or would you rather pay $6 a lead for 100 leads and only have 2 closings coming out of it? I think the answer that most of the astute entrepreneurs that happen to be in residential real estate have figured out is that using long form technology for first time home buyers, using long form technology for renovation real estate inquiries, using long form technology to bring in would be real estate investors or first time homebuyers who are thinking about buying distressed property, or even just to start a conversation with someone about stop renting now and stop giving your money to your landlord and start gaining your own equity. To have a long form where the consumer has watched a short video of yours, They've gotten to proverbially touch, taste, and feel who you are as a person because you're leveraging the power of video and then bringing them to this emotional connection where they're starting to buy into the fact that they really do want to talk to you. So when Zillow or Realtor.com spits out leads, the consumer doesn't even know who the hyper local expert or if the person is a hyper local expert, and they're sometimes very reluctant to even speak to the consumer. Another thing that we need to start to do is start to reimagine your career in real estate, similarly to Joanne Gaines or the Property Brothers on HGTV. You can absolutely open up a tremendous amount of equity, instant equity, and listing inventory that your consumer would never have chosen to look at if you didn't become the local, hyper local expert on renovation. By having that flag in the sand of becoming a renovation real estate agent and becoming certified as a renovation specialist, you can help families create instant equity in their homes. We bought a home for $107,000, did $65,000 in renovation, and sold it for $285,000. We created $113,000 in instant equity in a little house in New Orleans, Louisiana. But those opportunities exist in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Those opportunities exist in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Those opportunities exist all over the Eastern Seaboard, where Annie Mac Home Mortgage and our real estate partners are selling houses all the way out to Texas and Colorado and Oregon and Washington State. We're finding these renovation real estate case studies popping up throughout the industry. And to give a consumer an opportunity to look in a different school district, look at a different size home, but maybe take on the project of renovation in a meaningful way. We did a deal down in Pompano Beach, Florida, where the consumer bought the house for $1,050,000, $1,050,000, excuse me, and spent $450,000 on the repairs. So they had a total of $1.5 million invested into this waterfront home, but they ended up selling this house for $2 million. $2 million. So about $600,000 in equity when this property sold. Now, if you can become the next generation of residential real estate professionals by providing this expert guru status level of specialization, you will become more and more popular on video. You'll become more and more popular as a listing agent, and you'll become more and more popular with buyer inquiries. Now, I'd like to switch gears and talk about the true next generation of residential real estate, an environment for shopping in residential real estate where there are no mortgage contingencies in the future of real estate. There are no mortgage contingencies in the future of real estate. Mortgage bankers are being forced to guarantee the closing with cash. Now, this might sound too good to be true, especially if you've ever been at a closing where the funding is not going to go through. We run two programs. One of the programs that we run is called our Cash Offer Certified Agent, which means that any pre approval that you do with Annie Mac Home Mortgage can be upgraded to an ironclad guarantee that that transaction is going to close because Annie Mac Private Equity has backed that pre approval with cash. And then the second program that we operate on the right hand side of your screen is a listing tool that we've given to realtors all over the country. So I'm going to take a moment to run through this, but you can sign up to take the Cash to Keys certification right there at the bottom of your screen, worksignup.com/cash to keys. I want to tell you that I've been using this program myself. You can help these consumers make an offer that will not be refused because of a 20, 25, or 30-day mortgage contingency. You're able to write an offer that is backed up by cash because you did your pre-approval with Annie Mac Home Mortgage. We're going to gift you, as a real estate agent, all of the promotional materials. Once you become certified, you will understand the power of this product to not only attract buyers to get your offers accepted because there is no mortgage contingency, and furthermore, to use with your listings to help protect your seller from their deals falling through from a less than credible pre approval, a less than credible pre qualification. You know, in the world of mortgage banking, it's not always the mortgage banker's fault. Sometimes the consumer goes out and buys a car just before closing. Sometimes the consumer goes out and takes out a furniture credit card that throws their debt to income ratio off just before closing. We've had families file for divorce during a pending transaction. We've had families lose their job during a pending transaction. And what happens when Annie Mac Home Mortgage pre approval cash to keys comes into play, we're able to close on that house anyway and get the realtors paid. The listing agent receives their full commission, the buyer's agent receives their full commission, and Annie Mac Private Equity actually buys the home and helps to work with that consumer to buy it back from them at the same price. This is an extraordinary ironclad guarantee that removes the mortgage contingency. And the last example I want to give you is one that's near and dear to my heart, which is the military, active duty military personnel and the honorably discharged veterans of the American Armed Services. When they try to use their VA benefits to buy a home anywhere in the country, the sellers on those listings look unfavorably at the 0% down mortgage contingency. What we've been able to do is help hundreds and hundreds of veterans buy homes using our cash offer guarantee. So we're actually physically removing the mortgage contingency from the offer. And we think this represents the future of residential real estate, where no longer do listing agents and buyer's agents have to wait 30 days to find out if they're going to get. Now, my favorite side of a residential real estate transaction is the listing side. I learned a long time ago that it takes me about 7 to 10 hours to take a listing from the listing appointment to the closing table. About 7 to 10 of my personal hours involved in a real estate transaction that's on the listing side, where it takes as many as 28 to 35 hours of my personal time to go show property, write the offer, do the transaction coordinator work. So the elite residential real estate agents from across the country always lean towards the listing side of the transaction rather than going out and taking more buyers out, because it's just simply the highest return on invested time to be on the listing side of the transaction. I want to show you a scenario where the buy now, sell later program not only got us the listing, but got us the sale of the subsequent house they were going to buy. So we go on a listing appointment, and this little single family home is worth $325,000. But we advise the consumer that if we list it and then we sell that house for them, they're going to go out and have to shop with a contingency. They're going to have to go out and make an offer on this big, beautiful house on the right hand side of your screen, contingent upon the successful closing of the home they just sold. Well, you know how that works. The seller looks down his nose at that offer. And lo and behold, there's another offer that's coming in on the same house, and it's not contingent upon the successful closing of that house on the left. So the seller feels more comfortable with it, and he doesn't want to be involved in a domino effect of multiple transactions that all have to close for him to get his money. So what we did in 2023 is we flipped the relocation experience on its head. Absolutely changed the game for the next generation of real estate agents. Rather than list the house for 325, we went ahead and bought the $685,000 house for them with a private equity partner, and we set the closing for November 15th. Well, look at the serendipity of us going back then and listing their house on October 5th, getting a contract executed on October 22nd, and having an actual simultaneous closing anyway, because we went back and got that smaller house listed and sold, and they were able to close on time and put them both together. In the event that we weren't able to sell this house, let's say we were able to sell it for a November 30th closing, and there was this 2 week overlap from the time we bought the big house to the time the seller could move out of the little house. This gave the consumer a 2 week window to move into the new home while they still own their older home. And this requires that the consumer pays a little bit of rent per month until they're able to move into their new home. So, in the buy now, sell later strategy, you're actually going out and listing homes. You're helping the consumer go out and buy their new home, sometimes before they've even listed their old home, and then coordinate how much time does the consumer need between when we buy them the new home to the time they move in or sell their old home. But I can tell you, after 37 years in residential real estate, the three contingencies that cause the most headaches for realtors are the three on the bottom left-hand side of your screen. This contract is contingent upon the successful sale of the buyer's property located at. Another one is this contract is contingent upon the successful closing of the buyer's property located at. And last but not least, we all have dealt with headaches, moving trucks, anxiety, and stress because a file is not clear to close on the closing date. This contract is contingent upon buyer obtaining mortgage financing within 20, 25, or 30 days, is the deadliest contingency of all, especially on VA consumers, because the sellers have heard nightmares and stories about how these files just never close. So, what we've effectively done with a private equity partner to assist the next generation of real estate agents is to combine a credible pre-approval with a cash equivalent. AnnieMac Home Mortgage and AnnieMac Private Equity are putting their money where their mouth is, in the guarantee that not only will this deal close, but in the program Buy Now, Sell Later, that we'll actually go out and buy the home on behalf of your consumer ahead of time to alleviate any of those contingencies or headaches that come from relocation in residential real estate. So, in closing, if I had a wish for you as a residential real estate partner of AnnieMac Home Mortgage, sit down with your loan partner. Sit down with your mortgage professional at AnnieMac Home Mortgage and talk to them about your goals. Maybe he's a peer, maybe she's a peer, maybe she's been around longer than you, maybe she has different experiences than you. But whenever you sit with another person and discuss your goals, I can assure you that good things happen, good camaraderie, good synergy. We want to give you a scholarship today to become certified as a real estate staging expert. We believe that staging is the value add that creates guru hyper local expertise. We want to give you a scholarship to get certified as a renovation real estate agent. If you ever wanted to enter a coaching program, we've got a free 6 week coaching program for you called Take 10 Listings to help you move from the buyer side of residential real estate transactions to the more lucrative and more, I think, prestigious side of the real estate transaction. When you're the listing agent, you have the power and you have the inventory and you attract more consumers to you because your credibility is higher because you have a listing inventory. We want to offer you another absolutely free 6-week coaching program called Farming Fridays, which teaches you how to farm a geographic subdivision on a budget and using digital techniques like leveraging the power of video. We want you to get certified to be a cash buyer real estate agent using the Cash to Keys equity partner. And if I had my way, you'd start to see the writing on the wall with bank owned foreclosures coming back into the market. Start to actually practice your prospecting skills to talk to equity rich sellers that are facing foreclosure in 2023 and beyond. So these are our wishes for our relationship with you. My name is Russ Fitzpatrick, and I run the Annie Mac Works real estate productivity platform. The entire system is free from any charge, and we provide a lot of teaching, training, coaching, technology. We're about to launch a soon to be famous program called the Influencer Academy, where we're helping social media influencers automate their marketing to their local audience. We also provide scholarship for our certifications and free business development coaching. So it was my pleasure to share with you a peek into the next generation of real estate professionals. And hopefully, a handful of the things we talked about resonated with you. It is always my pleasure and my privilege to impart any of the pass me down wisdom that we collect from other realtors across the country. And I will see you at the closing table with Annie Mac